Hey everybody, what's happening? How we doing now? Happy Saturday. Cheers. Drinking a little bit of some absinthe on Saturday night, hanging out. Was listening to some I put a CD player in. So I was listening to this a few minutes ago. Yeah, I installed the CD player. Finally it broke down. I still had a whole bunch of them. I never listened to them, but I figured why waste them? So I found a cheap one at, Goodwill or whatever and plugged it in and works just fine. Okay, well, I was thinking about something the other day. I was listening to "Don't Break the Oath" by Merciful Fate, and it was just a random Discogs pick, and it's a great album. And then I hit random again, and Queensryche's A Warning came up, and I was like, oh, I wonder what these two have in common. Because sometimes just thinking about music, like why did the computer algorithm pick these two albums at the same time, or just whatever. Sometimes you get in my own head. Um, they're both from 1984. So I'm like, oh, 1984, that's interesting. That's 40 years ago. And I was also thinking about 40 years ago when I went and saw Static X. And at the end of the show, they were throwing out drumsticks, and I ended up on the floor fighting for a drumstick. My kid ended up getting it and whatever. And we were talking about that, and I started thinking, oh, my first show was in February of 1984. I went and saw Kiss. So that was interesting. It was like the 40th anniversary almost basically to the day. Actually, when I saw Pantera on the 8th, I saw Kiss on like the 5th or something like that back in 84. So that was like a 40 years for me. So I started thinking about what other albums are out and came out in 84 that are 40 years old. So I started looking to see what they were and seeing which ones I had in my collection. And I got a lot more than I thought from that year. I've got like 40, 45 of them altogether. So I want to talk about a few of them, maybe break this up over the year or something. So talk about albums 1984. They're turning 40 years old this year. Some of them that already have, like this one right here, Van Halen 1984. Let's start with 1984 because, talk about 1984, right? Great album. Last one with David Lee Roth. Went to number two. It's the sixth album by Van Halen. It's got the hits we all know, Jump and All Wait and Hot for Teacher. And it's got Drop Dead Legs and stuff like that, right? Drop Dead Legs is on there? Yeah, Drop Dead Legs is on there. Good album. Went to number two. For me, this is the last Van Halen album. I don't listen to anything after this. I was never a fan when Sammy Hagar joined. Not saying anything against Hagar. I like Hagar. But I preferred Van Halen with David Lee Roth. So that came out. That was in January. This one came out like a week later. Defenders of the Faith. Judas Priest, Defenders of the Faith. Free Will Burning. Here's your track listing right there. It's got Free Will Burning, Jawbreaker, Rock Hard, The Sentinel, Love Bites, Eat Me Alive. Come on, Defenders of the Faith. Night Goes Down. This is a kick-ass album. This album is killer. 1984. This is their ninth overall. Went to number 18 when it was released. This was Judas Priest at their heyday, as far as I was concerned. I think the whole world, Judas Priest, this is when they were really popular in the United States and everywhere else. Not sure. Oh, well, from 1984, obviously, right? So they were, Kicking It. Love Bites was all over MTV. All this music was all over MTV. So next one, Whitesnake, Slide It In. Great album, Slow and Easy, Love Ain't No Stranger. This is when Whitesnake was becoming very popular in the United States. It's been around for a long time, but I think this was the beginning of the Whitesnake's popularity in the U.S., especially becoming, this went to number 9 in the UK, number 40 in the US. The next album, the Whitesnake self-titled, was huge in the US. So this was Whitesnake really breaking worldwide at this point in time. But this is a killer band. John Lord, John Sykes, Neil Murray, Cozy Powell. This is a great album. There was a lot of great music in 1984. This one, Ted Nugent Penetrator, was released in 1984. Honestly, I have no idea about this record at all. This is one of the ones that was found. There was a whole bunch of Ted Nugent stuff in there. Not really been a huge fan. I've listened to a couple of them, but this one's never been on the turntable in the 2 years that I've had it since I found it. I've never played this. So I couldn't tell you if this is any good or not. I'm sure it's decent. for sure. It's Nugent. Nugent's never put out bad music, I don't think. He's rock and roll. He's a good guitar player, but it's just not me. Mostly, that's why I don't listen to Nugent a whole lot. So, but when they come up to play, when I'm hitting random or whatever, I'll listen to it. But I've never played this, so I couldn't tell you what it sounds like. I know Nugent wasn't, he was always there, but he was never, huge. Berlin Love Life, 1984. Um, third album by the band Berlin, went to number 23 in 1984. Picture of You, that was kind of a hit. This is a good album. I got into Berlin because of the Metro, essentially, right? And ended up with all their records. This one, I prefer the earlier stuff, but it's a good album. It really is. So 1984 was also big for New Wave. We got a lot of that stuff. So Berlin, 84 also gave us this, Rat Out of the Cellar. Debut album, one of the greatest debuts. I was hooked on this the second I saw the Round Around video. I just bought this copy recently, so it wasn't too bad. $26, Japanese. It's got the insert and everything on it. 1984 OG copy. $26. I didn't think that was too bad. I had a copy of this when I was a teenager that I had for years and years of this Rat album, but it disappeared when I found my records 7-8 years ago. It wasn't there with the rest of them. Cars, Heartbeat C. This is a killer album. This is one of the ones that was found. Nice and crisp and clean, still pretty. Good album. This is a good one right here. There's inner sleeves, got this cool gear. It's got Hello Again, Looking for Love, Drive, Magic. The Cars in their heyday, I would say. Cars are a great band all the way around anyway. So, but all that stuff was, like I said, all this stuff was all over MTV. And that's how we got music back in the day. It was MTV. Talk show. Go-Go's. This is their third and basically final album. Went to number 18. After this, Belinda leaves the band, goes on a solo career. It's pretty much the end of the Go-Go's. This was, and if you look at, this was a lot more poppy and a lot less. The early Go-Go stuff has some of that punk idea in it, and I don't think this has it. I think this is just more pop music. The first two albums, The Beauty and the Beat and Vacation, those have more of that, almost like a surf punk sound to it a little bit. California punk, kinda, but it's poppy. This one came out, and like I said, this one went to number 18. But this is basically the end of the Go-Go's. Like I said, Belinda leaves the band right after this, goes on a solo career. You know how that went, and then they never come back. Love at First Sting. This was the Scorpions in their heyday. This was as big as they ever got. They were huge when this album came out back then. I remember seeing them on this tour, and then I saw them on the following tour when they were basically touring the same tour because it was the Worldwide Live tour. So, this was killer. They were giant. The Scorpions were giants. Remember when this album came out, this was deemed too controversial, and Walmart wouldn't put it in the stores, so they changed the cover. And the cover, they basically just changed the cover to what was on the inner sleeve. That would have been, if you have Love at First Sting with this cover on it, you have the one that had to be made especially for Walmart, because this cover is too provocative. Too provocative for 1984. Because, look, you can almost see her nipple right there. And then his hand is, on her ass. So, how dare they? We love that record. We love that band. But I was never a huge Scorpions fan altogether. It's about 4 or 5 years in between. That's right in the middle. After that, I didn't think I bought much of anything else. I had some of the albums beforehand. Human League Hysteria. This is a pretty good new wave sounding album. It was their fifth album overall. It only went to 62 in the US, but it went to number 3 in the UK because of the style of music. The UK was more into this than we were here in America. I'm really digging this sound. Really going back and listening to the 80s new wave stuff. I'm really starting to enjoy that a lot more. Of course, you know that if you watch the show. When you think of the Human League and you think of the hits, none of those are on this record. It's still a good record. They couldn't name the songs on it, but you don't have any of the big hits that the Human League had are on this record. I'm Coming Back, I Love You Too Much, Rock Me Again and Again and Again and Again and Again and Again. But it's good. It's got that cool sound the Human League has. If you like that style of music, this is a great record. As far as I'm concerned, the Human League is them and Berlin both were one of the greats when it comes to that new wave synth type sound. I think, and the Fix, of course, also, which also I think put an album out in '84. I don't know. It's not on this list right here. Stay Hungry, Twisted Sister, 1984. Went to number 15. This is their third album overall, and basically Twisted Sister at their heyday. We all remember, if you're old like me, we remember when this album came out and how big Twisted Sister was. And then the next two records were sort of disappointments, and they kind of basically just disappeared. But this is a great record. I Want to Rock and Stay Hungry and We're Not Going to Take It and Burn in Hell and The Horror-Teria and The Price. Every song on here is a fucking banger. SMF, The Beast. I mean, the whole thing is killer all the way through. It's really a great 80s metal album. Sometimes I think Twisted Sister gets overlooked in that era, as big as they were. They kind of get overlooked, I think, because of the look more than anything else. They were a little campy. But this is when they got big, is when they got campy. The previous Under the Blade stuff was a little campy, but it wasn't quite as funny as this stuff is. So that's pretty much it for tonight. Saturday night, Clarksville, Tennessee. We hope you guys all have a great one. Get yourself some drinks. That's kind of what I was doing here. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to play, maybe I should play that Nugent album. Maybe, since I've never heard it before. I'll let you know if I do that or not. All right. Thanks for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. All right. So I played it, or I'm playing it right now. I've listened to side one. The first song on side two, I think it's called Thunder Thighs. This album is killer. So I'm glad I pulled this out today. So Saturday night, salute.